This is the third video for the Klicker notes, Chapter 3, Muscles of the Cranium, Face, and Neck, for funeral services, national board exam, for sciences. We're using the Klicker notes. This is the last part of it. Please use an earbud because I have a filthy mouth and I'm going to cuss a lot. Okay, here we go. These are the quote, isolated muscles, which I'm assuming isolated means that they only have one particular function, only deal with one isolated facial expression, isolated muscles. It sounds like bullshit to me. But these are the isolated muscles. The corrugator, rug gator. Look at the screen. It kind of sort of looks like a river going up the forehead and like the body of a gator between the eye rugs. You know, the eyebrows kind of look like a rug and there's like a little gator. Corrugator is isolated between the eyebrows. It only draws downward and inward. It only deals with frowns. While, for instance, other muscles like the mouth sphincter can do all sorts of functions and expressions. The corrugator only draws downward and inward and only deals with frowns, which is why it's isolated. The procerus is also an isolated muscle because it draws the skin of the forehead inferiorly only. The procerus only draws the skin of the forehead down. It is the concentrating muscle only. So the procerus is damn near in the same place as the corrugator. If you look at the diagram here, they're like on top of each other. They're like lovers between the eyebrows, the procerus and the corrugator. And the procerus is the concentrating muscle and the corrugator is the frowny muscle. So corrugator, the rug gator that's squeezing up between the eyebrows, procerus, procerus, and they're lovers. They are between the eyebrow lovers, and they're isolated even though they're on top of each other. Next is the buccinator. The buccinator is an isolated muscle. The buccinator, blowinator, succinator. It is the key muscle that forms the cheek and compresses the cheek inward to help with chewing. If you look at the screen, you can see the shape of the buccinator. It obviously looks like it's a key muscle that forms the cheek. So it's isolated in that way that it pulls the cheek inward and helps with chewing. That's all it does. And helps blow a trumpet, I guess. But it's still isolated. The buccinator, blowinator, succinator is isolated, pulling the cheek inward to help with chewing and forming the key muscle of the cheek. The risorius is an isolated muscle. The risorius, remember the Riz, the charismatic fake charmer kid, the fake smile. The risorius only pulls the mouth straight back into a flat smile. It doesn't pull up, it doesn't pull down into a frown, it pulls straight back, making a fake smile. The platysma muscle is an isolated muscle. It's the broad, flat, superficial muscle of anterior front of the neck. Broad, flat, superficial muscle of the front of the neck, like a platypus tail. Platysma, platypus. This muscle wrinkles the skin of the neck and chest and depresses the mandible and lower lip. It causes tissues to sag, forming the buccofacial sulcus, the serrated jawline, and the platysmal sulci, which is acquired facial markings, platysmal sulci, transverse dipping furrows of the neck. These platysmal sulci runs across both the front and sides of the neck. Platysma muscle is an isolated muscle. This is all it does. It depresses the mandible and lower lip, extends and depresses the chin, as you can see from the screen. Platypus tail, broad, flat, superficial muscle. Next is digastric or digastricus. This is an isolated muscle. It lies below the body of the mandible. It's a double-bellied muscle which draws the hyoid bone superiorly. So it draws the hyoid bone up. So what the fuck is the hyoid bone? This doesn't really do you any fucking good if you can't picture it and know what the fuck the hyoid bone is. That is a small U-shaped bone in the front of the neck between the chin and the thyroid cartilage. This is a chomper muscle and a chomper bone. The digastricus hyoid. This is the fat bastard muscle and bone. You need it to eat. It contributes to the cords of the neck, which are acquired facial markings. It's the vertical prominences of the neck. So think of digastricus like the dinosaur name for fat bastard. It's below the body of the mandible. So chomp, get the fuck in my belly, right? Double bellied. This one's the double bellied one. Here's another image of the posterior belly of the muscle and the anterior belly of the muscle. And it makes you go chomp chomp and get stuff in its double belly, right? Digastricus. If fat bastard was a dinosaur, that's what this is. That's how we're going to remember it. I hope. So to recap, the isolated muscles. The isolated muscles are the corrugator and the procurus. The corrugator and the procurus between the eyebrows. The rugator and the procerus muscle. The buccinator, blowinator, succinator. The rhizosaurus. rizosaurus, fake smile. The platysma, platypus muscle, and the digastricus, fat bastard muscle. Next is the list of the unpaired muscles. In other words, the single muscles. They're just by themselves. Kind of sounds like isolated, but they're unpaired. These are unpaired and single muscles. So in other words, they're not isolated because they could do more of a variety of things. I guess. Who knows? This is bullshit. So the occipitofrontalis, epicranius, or frontalis. Same bullshit. It's the big muscle on the front of the forehead. It covers the top and sides of the cranium. It draws the scalp posteriorly, in other words, towards the back of the body, and inferiorly, which is down, and also raises the eyebrows. You know, suddenly they want to fucking speak English. It raises the eyebrows superiorly. Yeah. So it's a single muscle. It's unpaired. Occipitofrontalis, epicranius, frontalis, covers the tops and sides of the cranium, draws the scalp towards the back, which is like upwards, and also down, and raises the eyebrows. The occipital belly originates at the posterior base of the cranium. So at the back, the belly is at the back of the cranium. The frontal belly originates at the gallia aponeurotica. I'm not really sure if gallia aponeurotica is maybe like some Latin bullshit derived from neurotic, or maybe with this person that decided to give this bullshit name, maybe they had some kind of a erotic kink for the forehead. Who knows? But the frontal belly of our forehead muscle originates in the gallia aponeurotica. The frontal belly inserts into muscle fibers above the eyes. Single muscle, occipitofrontalis, epicranius, frontalis. The next one is procurus, procerus. Concentration muscle. It draws the forehead skin down. The procerus is an unpaired single muscle. And the eye sphincter, the orbicularis oris, is an unpaired single muscle. And the mentalis. The mentalis is an unpaired single muscle. It covers the mental eminence. This is a really dumb bullshit word for the chin. It covers the eminence of the chin. The mentalis is thick and flat, which adds bulk to the prominence and anterior projection of the chin. So, the mentalis chin muscle is thick and flat, and it adds bulk to how much your fucking chin juts out from your face, is what this is saying in, pompous asshole language. Pretty simple. It's not that difficult. They just make it difficult. The mentalis is the muscle situated over the prominence of the chin. They might say it that way, which is a little bit of an improvement. The mentalis elevates and protrudes the inferior lip. It wrinkles the skin over the chin. Dimples form from the mentalis, which are natural facial markings. The mentalis originates on top of the chin at the bone. So how are we going to remember mentalis? It's an unpaired single muscle. It's the chin muscle. Someone makes you feel mental. Where do you punch them to knock them the fuck out? Perfect angle on the chin, the mentalis muscle, or the person that makes you feel mental. Okay, make their brain hit their skull a little in there. Mentalis of the meathead's chin. Mentalis of the meathead's chin. There you go. If they stick their lower lip out, you hit them anyway. Bulky chin, mental motherfucker, right? That's the weird part, is the mentalis muscle it elevates and protrudes the inferior lip. So you just try to, it's like someone knows that they're about to get knocked the fuck out and they pout their lip. Like, no, don't knock me out. And we remember it that way maybe, right? It's the chin muscle and also the pouty lower lip muscle. So to recap, the unpaired single muscles is the occipitofrontalis, epicranius frontalis, forehead muscle, tops and sides of the cranium. The procurus procerus concentration muscle, drawing the forehead skin down. The orbicularis oris. Oh my gosh. I think I said eye sphincter. That's the mouth sphincter. The unpaired single muscle is the mouth sphincter, not the eye. Like I said earlier, that was a mistake. The mouth sphincter is an unpaired single muscle. And the mentalis chin muscle. Unpaired single muscles. Remember, unlike me, I apparently have the fucking memory of a goldfish. No matter how much shit I talk, I guess. Oculi is eye, oris is mouth. Oris is a single muscle, the mouth. Next is to know the muscles of mastication. In other words, chewing. The muscles of mastication. There is two, the temporalis and the masseter. We have to figure out a way to remember those two and remember the details that separate them, because they're kind of similar. So, temporalis is the broad fan-shaped muscle over the squama of the temporal bone. Helps close the mandible. It's the strongest chewing muscle. So the temporalis, we have to remember, is broad fan-shaped over squama of temporal bone. That's pretty easy. Temporalis. helps close the mandible, and it's the strongest chewing muscle. So, when you think of temps, think of fan, especially with how fucking hot it is right now in the summer. So, temporalis, temp, fan, right? Goes with temperatures. It's the strongest chewing muscle. So it's basically the zombie apocalypse muscle. Like it's what's gonna really like do the work to help you eat the most brains, right? Strongest chewing muscle, temporalis. And there's gonna be no fans during the zombie apocalypse. So it's gonna be fucking hot. But the chewing muscle, the strongest chewing muscle, is fan shaped. So that's like kind of ironic. It's kind of like you're a zombie and the universe is poking fun at you, right? Temporalis, temporal bone over the squama of temporal bone. Fan shaped, strongest chewing muscle during the bitchin' heat of the zombie apocalypse while you're trying to eat brains. Temporalis, muscle of mastication. The origin of the temporalis is the entire temporal depression, which you can see on the screen. The insertion of the temporalis is the coronoid process of the mandible, which you can also see on the screen. How it fans out from that coronoid process into the depression, the temporal depression. The function of the temporalis, you might see the language that it retrieves the lower jaw, bringing the teeth together. Like, that's the dumbest way to say bringing the teeth together I've ever fucking heard. Retrieves the lower jaw. It just sounds stupid. You know, like your fucking jawbone is a golden retriever or something, and it retrieves the lower jaw, or the muscle, I mean. You know, but if you see that on the exam, it is legitimate. Retrieves the lower jaw like a fucking frisbee, you know. The temporalis's effect on the surface of the skin is it provides bulk to the temporal cavity. Bulk for brains, I guess. Temporalis. The masseter also closes the mandible. It's a little tricky. They both close the mandible, but the masseter is located along the side of the mandible. Its origin is the anterior 2/3 of the zygomatic arch and lower border of the cheekbone. It's the anterior, which is towards the front, 2/3 of the cheekbone arch and lower border of the cheekbone. The masseter's insertion is the angle of the jaw and ramus of the mandible. Its function is it raises the jaw. The buccofacial sulcus is located along the anterior, so towards the front, border of the masseter muscle. The masseter provides bulk to the side of the cheek. So we have to compare and contrast the masseter with the temporalis here. So the temporalis and the masseter both help close the jaw. The temporalis is referred to in a few different ways in how it closes the jaw. It might just say closes the mandible. It might say it's the strongest chewing muscle. It might say it retrieves the lower jaw, like a golden retriever, bringing the teeth together. The masseter, on the other hand, is it just closes the mandible. It's not the strongest chewing muscle. It's located along the side of the mandible. The temporalis is fan-shaped. The masseter is just located along the side of the mandible and up in the cheek arch and lower border of the cheekbone. And it raises the jaw. There's no language about the temporalis that says anything. Oh, no, actually it does. Retrieves the lower jaw is what the temporalis will say. The masseter will say raises the jaw. So it's very tricky. But the temporalis is the strongest chewing muscle, and that's seems to be something that stands out. So masseter, ass eater. Temporalis, zombie apocalypse muscle, right? Shaped like a fan. Masseter, weaker muscle, ass eater muscle, not the brain eater muscle. That's how I'm going to remember it. And the masseter, speaking of asses, the masseter, the buccofacial sulcus, is located along the anterior border of the masseter. So think butt cheeks and buccofacial sulcus. That's, but yeah. The next list is the muscles of facial expression. The muscles of facial expression. Corrugator, the rug gator, the squished, angry eyebrows. The levator palpebrae superioris. Levator lifts. Palpebrae superioris just means eyelid upper. Levator palpebrae superioris lifts upper eyelid. So you know that's a muscle of facial expression. Levator labii superioris alaiki nasi. Alaike, whatever that stupid word is. Alaeque, nasi. Levator labii superioris alaiki nasi. Lifts upper lip, nose something. Jesus fucking, let me double check on that. This is a muscle in the face that elevates the upper lip and dilates the nostril. So it's the nostril flaring muscle and also lifts the upper lip. It's a key muscle in facial expressions like smiling and expressing disdain or displeasure, sometimes referred to as the Elvis muscle, due to its prominence in Elvis Presley's signature snarl. Thank you, Google. This is important. This Elvis muscle, levator labii superioris, alaiki nasi, what the fuck ever, is the common elevator. Common elevator. Remember Elvis, alaiki nasi, common elevator. Elvis was pretty common. And this was referred about his snarl or whatever, that he was a little stupid lip curl that he would do. Common elevator. Levator labii superioris, lifts and extends upper lip. It's that one that's running right there next to the wing of the nose in the picture. It lifts and extends upper lip. The depressor anguli oris. So what do you see? Depress, angle, mouth. Depressor anguli oris drops or depresses the angle of the mouth. And remember, it's at the angle. It's also called triangularis. Depressor anguli oris. It's located inferior to the lateral portion of the mouth. In English, it's located below the side portion of the mouth. Depressor anguli oris drops, depresses the angle of the mouth, and its origin is along the line of the mandible. The depressor labii inferioris, also known as quadratus, drops the lower lip, draws it inferiorly and slightly lateral. So draws it down and slightly to the side. Depressor labii inferioris, also called quadratus. The origin is the base and side of the chin, or they might say mentalis. Insertion is the skin of the lower lip. Function is pulls the lower lip down and to the side. The depressor labii inferioris or quadratus. Muscle of facial expression. This one affects the line of mouth closure and presence of angulus oris sulcus. So when the mouth closure tries to go into a frown, it's being affected by the depressor labii inferioris or quadratus. And those are the muscles of facial expression. Corrugator, levator palpebrae superioris, levator labii superioris, aliaci nasi, Elvis bullshit, whatever. Levator labii superioris and depressor anguli oris and depressor labii inferioris or quadratus. Muscles of facial expression. Next is a list of the muscles that quote draw. Muscles that draw, that pull one way or the other. So, drawing muscles, occipitofrontalis or epicranius or frontalis, draws the forehead up towards the scalp, draws the forehead up. The corrugators draw the eyebrows down, pull the eyebrows down. The procurus, right there with the corrugator, the procerus, draws the forehead down. So the corrugator, the eyebrow gator, rug gator, little, buddy, draws the eyebrows down. The procerus draws the forehead skin down. Rug gator is eyebrows, procerus is forehead, skin down. But they're lovers between the eyebrows. Yeah, drawing muscles. Zygomaticus minor is the cheek muscle. The zygomaticus minor muscle draws the upper lip backwards, upwards, and outwards in English. So zygomaticus minor draws the upper lip posterior backwards, superior upwards, and outwards anterior in asshole language. The zygomaticus major draws the cheek by elevating and retracting the corner of the mouth. The zygomaticus major draws the angle of the mouth superiorly and posteriorly, allowing a smile. Zygomaticus major is the smile. Upwards and backwards. Pulls the cheeks back to smile. Zygomaticus major. And the risorius muscle. Rhizosaurus. Look at that riz. That is a riz fake smile. The risorius draws the angle of the mouth posteriorly and laterally to make a fake smile. And the digastric or digastricus, if you want to say the dinosaur name, that is the fat bastard two belly muscle that draws the hyoid chomper bone upwards. So, muscles that draw. Occipitofrontalis, epicranius frontalis. Forehead up, draws forehead up. The corrugator draws eyebrows down. The procurus procerus draws forehead, skin down. Eyebrows down, forehead down for the procerus. Corrugator, eyebrows down. Zygomaticus minor draws the cheek muscle. Zygomaticus major draws the cheek muscle, and it's the smiling muscle. The zygomaticus minor is the other one. The zygomaticus major is the smiling muscle that draws the cheek back and up for the smile. The rhizosaurus, draws the angle of the mouth back and flat, like lateral, back and flat to the sides. And the digastric draws the hyoid, get in my belly bone, upwards. Digastricus, fat bastard hyoid, get in my belly bone, draws upwards. That's the muscles that draw. The muscles that close is the temporalis, then the masseter. Those are the two muscles of mastication that closes your jaw. The orbicularis oculi, the eye butthole that closes, and the orbicularis oris, the mouth sphincter that closes. Muscles that close. Temporalis, masseter for the mouth, orbicularis oculi for the eye muscle, and orbicularis oris for the mouth muscle. Muscles that raise or elevate. Levator, palpebrae superioris, the upper eyelid. Obviously, it has to raise. When you see palpebrae, that's the pompous asshole word for eyelid. Superioris is upper, so obviously the raising of the upper eyelid. Levator, labii superioris, alekinasi, that's the Elvis snarl. When you see aleki, whatever the fuck that word is, that's Elvis's word for his little snarling bullshit. It raises. Levator, labii superioris. Labii, you know, has to do with the lip. It's the upper lip lifter that lifts, raises. Anything with levator raises or elevates. Levator anguli oris, upper angle of mouth lifter muscle. And the oddball here is the mentalis, the chin muscle. It elevates and protrudes the lower lip. So it's also a muscle that raises or elevates. That's easy to forget. But remember that, you know, the lip elevates and protrudes a little bit when it realizes it's about to get busted, you know, knock the fuck out on the chin. So don't forget the mentalis, the asshole that makes you mental enough to bust their mouth and knock them the fuck out. Like, whoever wrote this shit. Mentalis. All right. Muscles that depress. Depressor anguli oris depresses the angle of the mouth. Depressor labii inferioris depresses the lower lip. Platysma, the platypus tail fan muscle, depresses the mandible and lower lip. So remember the platypus tail, that fan muscle, big, flat, broad thing under the chin, depresses the mandible and the lower lip. It's right there with the sternocleidomastoid that draws the head down. They're on top of each other, the platypus tail and the sternocleidomastoid. The sternocleidomastoid has a platypus tail. Maybe we can remember it that way. And the platypus tail depresses the mandible and the lower lip. Sternocleidomastoid draws the head down. And that concludes the sections of the Klicker notes. The next video is going to be a pure review, just Latin, English, and I'll keep my commentary completely out of it. The dumb stuff that I've thought up to help remember it, I'm going to keep that out of it and just run through the Klicker notes, top to bottom, just English, Latin, just the way it's written. All right.